Join us next time, see if someone can win it. Meanwhile, it's goodbye from Giles.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.
New comedy at its best. Sue Johnson's worst nightmare is a robot carer android with Dan Morgan on iPlayer. This and everything across the BBC is made possible because we're funded by you. Thank you.
From the smallest beginnings come the most extraordinary stories.
Oh yes, I can hear it.
Explore the evolutionary journeys.
You're wonderful, aren't you?
Of our most iconic animals.
They're so curious. That is spectacular.
Evolution. Press red for all episodes on BBC iPlayer.
We proceed on the basis that this is a murder until we know it's an accident.
So you can't think I had anything to do with her death?
I didn't kill her.
We've all told you the same thing. It's not us. Got you.
The new series of Granite Harbour. Watch from Thursday on BBC iPlayer.
Lady Courier, sir. Get your courier.
I beg your pardon, miss. I was called by news of this show with double crossings and murders.
Father, that's the one you delight in.
Well, really? You must join us this evening.
Nothing brings us together like great TV.
So a TV licence? It gives you access to this wondrous treachery.
Indeed.
A TV licence for all TV channels and BBC iPlayer.
Good evening from BBC One Northern Ireland. Now at 6 o'clock, the BBC News with Fiona Bruce in London and Declan Harvey in Belfast.
Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again. The moment we bring back hope. Thank you very much, everybody.
Here in Downing Street, the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, the 7th in 10 years, is forming his new government. Earlier this afternoon, he walked up to his new front door along with his wife, pledging to make politics work better. He started appointing his cabinet, the former Defence Secretary John Healey, the first to enter number 10, followed by Ed Miliband and Shabana Mahmood, who will bring you the latest on who's in and who's out. This morning, after just 2 years in the job, Keir Starmer, along with his wife Victoria, said their farewells and left number 10 for the last time.
I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything that we have achieved.
At the age of 75.
In Northern Ireland this evening, party leaders at Stormont have been reacting to the appointment of Andy Burnham as Prime Minister. And in other news, persistent antisocial behaviour in West Belfast has left some locals living in fear, they say.
Good evening and welcome to the news at 6 from a sunny Downing Street, where earlier today Andy Burnham walked up the road, greeted by crowds of supporters, and into number 10 to become the new Prime Minister. He is the UK's 5th Prime Minister in 4 years, replacing Sir Keir Starmer, who became PM after the general election just 2 years ago. It's all happened very quickly. Mr Burnham, the former Mayor of Greater Manchester, of course, was elected an MP just last month and became leader of the Labour Party on Friday. Some of the key movements in the Cabinet so far, both the Chancellor Rachel Reeves and the Foreign Secretary David Lammy are out. Here's our political editor Chris Messon on the day's events so far.
This the moment at lunchtime that Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. A handshake from the King for a man who only became an MP a month ago and is now running the country. From Buckingham Palace, a brief moment to reflect on the magnitude of the job he takes on as he's driven the short distance to his new address. In Downing Street, his friends, family, supporters, his wife Marie-France alongside him as he greets the crowd. His longtime friend, the Mayor of the Liverpool City region, Steve Rotherham, here with his grandson Harley. The new Prime Minister takes office without having won a general election or faced a challenger in the race for the Labour leadership. Before his address, he spotted his mum, Eileen, in the crowd.
I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government.
This a speech delivered without a lectern or notes.
I am acutely conscious that I am the 6th person in the last 10 years to walk up this street, the 7th Prime Minister since 2016.
In other words, in recent years, being in government has meant being unpopular and quickly. I get it, he claimed.
I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be. We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain, bringing forward the biggest changes in the last 40 years. A new political model and a new economic model.
Yes, you heard that right. He reckons he'll introduce changes on a scale not seen in 4 decades, but we won't get a full sense of them for a bit.
Later this year, I will bring forward a new plan for Britain, a 10-year plan, laying out a path from where we are now to where I believe we all want Britain to be, wherever we're coming from, whatever party we support. But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living. And I will set out some of those measures starting tomorrow, including how we pay for them.
There was one specific new promise, though.
I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
And then his concluding message.
Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again, the moment we bring back hope. Thank you very much, everybody.
Afterwards, a hug with his mum, and then the image for the history books. Tradition dictates the applause doesn't stop when an arriving Prime Minister crosses number 10's threshold for the first time. The team of aides and civil servants who'll work for him welcoming him inside as his political opponents size up a new rival.
What Andy Burnham has just said is we're going to have to wait till the end of the year to know what his plan is. Now, that is totally unsatisfactory. I suspect that on tax we're going to be heading into a summer of speculation now as to what taxes may be rising, and that in itself can be very damaging.
I want him to do well because I want our country to do well. We as the Liberal Democrats, we're the 3rd largest party in Parliament, and it's our job to be a good, constructive, responsible opposition. That means scrutinising plans he comes up with.
We wish him well for the sake of the country, but we fear this is going to end badly. Andy Burnham says that he's going to bring about a big change, but he's got no mandate for that. He should call a general election if he has, but we don't see any evidence of a plan.
Before all this morning's Prime Minister, soon to be yesterday's man, Sir Keir Starmer, left number 10 for the last time, giving a short speech on his way out.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I'm about to visit His Majesty the King to offer my resignation and close the book on my time as Prime Minister. My work is done.
He claimed he was leaving the country in a better state than he found it, but now it was his successor's turn.
So, as I now pass the baton to Andy Burnham, I wish him every success. He has my full support.
And with that, his final public words in the job.
I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything that we have achieved. Thank you very much.
A hug for his wife Victoria and also for his Chancellor Rachel Reeves. She was offered another cabinet job by Andy Burnham, but turned it down. Plenty of others have been sacked. A government ends, a new government begins. A new cabinet is being appointed tonight.
Well, talking of the new cabinet, Chris, I mean, you've been here pretty much all day watching the comings and goings. We've just seen three significant characters, haven't we? John Healey, Burnham and Ed Miliband. We're trying to read the runes here about what we might glean about a new government. What sense are you getting?
So my eyes are currently flicking between my phone screen and then the two doors behind us, number 10 and number 11. As you say, those three have gone in. So we have Shabana Mahmood, who has been Home Secretary. We've had Ed Miliband, who has been the Energy Secretary. We know there's been intense discussions within Team Burnham about what to do with those two senior ministers. Does one of the two of them become Chancellor? And John Healey, the former Defence Secretary who resigned a few weeks ago, has also gone in. So could he be in the mix for that job? Or indeed, there's the Home Secretary's job if Shabana Mahmood does move. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. What about the Foreign Secretary's role as well? Sometimes we see the appointment of a chief whip, the person who is going to manage the discipline within a government, being appointed early on because they can be involved and sit in on some of the other appointments. So the bottom line is, as you can tell, we don't know yet. They have been in there.
Is it surprising that we don't know yet?
Not necessarily. These things are complicated and they are difficult, and they're particularly difficult if people turn down jobs. Now, we know that Rachel Reeves, the now former Chancellor, was offered a job in Cabinet and turned it down. Now, we're not certain which job, and I don't think Team Burnham would necessarily be wildly surprised at that chain of events. But when things like that happen, if you imagine a whiteboard with names upon it, suddenly names start being taken off it, and with that are consequences for other people being placed in different jobs. In other words, it's rather difficult. Welcome to the business of being Prime Minister for Andy Burnham.
Well, as we stand here, we shall see if more people come and if anyone walks out that door at number 11. Chris, for the moment, thank you very much. Well, Mr Burnham's ascension to Prime Minister has been so rapid, there is not that much known about precisely what his policies might be. He's given some suggestions in interviews about increasing power to local mayors, for example, but there's been precious little detail. So what can we expect from the UK's 59th Prime Minister? Here's Joe Pike.
So, how many people would come through here?
His big day started small.
I shouldn't have doubted you.
At 7 a.m. at a homeless project in London.
It's all about what you do with it, isn't it?
The message, inequality is his focus. Tackling it, his mission.
Get the basics right, put a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and just get this country working as it should.
He made tackling homelessness in Greater Manchester a priority, with mixed results. Burnham's allies argue his political philosophy can be traced back to his roots, to what he's called a working-class family in the northwest of England.
Andy Burnham said there are three core things in his life. And he said in order, Everton FC, about which he is indeed obsessive, the Labour Party, he's a creature of that sort of working-class northwest England background where the Labour Party was seen as the vehicle of your aspirations, and the Catholic Church. So he might not go to Mass every Sunday, but he has said his Catholicism does matter to him.
Thank you very much.
But more cost of living support, like increasing the tax-free personal allowance, will cost money. The Tories want him to rule out tax rises, but he's hinted they're possible.
We are going to have to work quite hard to make sure we can pay our way, and at some point that might be having to ask for a little more.
The tone and plan may have changed, but the fundamentals facing Andy Burnham have not. He'll need to try and trim the £58 billion a year sickness and benefits bill for working-age people, try and help the 1 million 16 to 24-year-olds not in education, employment or training, find another £9 billion for the defence budget per year, and try and reform England's system of social care. Andy Burnham rarely mentions immigration, so long a dominant issue in our politics. He talks lots of wanting to devolve power, build council houses, nationalise utilities, and that's before we get to scrapping planned ID cards and increasing oil and gas drilling. Donald Trump has welcomed that North Sea news, even if he seemed sceptical about the new PM.
I see that he was, I guess, the mayor of a town. I hear he's extremely liberal.
Mr Burnham has apologised for his party's approach to Gaza, but there will be no policy change on Ukraine.
I've worked with Ukrainian mayors over the last few years. I've built a network of support for Ukrainian mayors. I take all of that experience into my new role, and President Zelensky will be left in no doubt whatsoever that Britain's support is steadfast, it is resolute, it will be there for him.
The big unknown, how all of this goes down with Labour MPs. Appointing ministers is easy, sacking them can create enemies. Some will feel humiliated at losing their jobs, others disappointed at being overlooked for ministerial office. And ultimately, Andy Burnham can only put his policies in place with their support. It's taken 3 attempts across 16 years for Andy Burnham to reach this moment. His life in government could be equally gruelling. Joe Pike, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, Andy Burnham has made much of wanting to replicate what he calls Manchesterism, but also has pledged to govern for all parts of the UK. So what does that mean, and what do people around the country make of it? Coletta Smith has been to Derby to gauge the reaction there.
It's musical chairs in Downing Street, but today it's business as usual here in Derby.
We're still in the same boat to me. Nothing's changed massively. I know he can have a big impact in some ways, but we're voting for the party, not the person in charge.
I don't actually know a lot about him.
I must admit I don't know a great deal about him.
I know he wants to change how politics is.
Halfway between London and Manchester, I want to hear what people in Derby think.
I'm game for anything, but I talk drivel.
About the man in charge of the Labour Party and now the country.
I like him. He comes across as very personable. I'm a little optimistic. We'll see. Let's see what he brings to the table.
I do know that he's done quite a lot in Manchester, helping to regenerate the city, and I do know that he's capped the bus tickets.
Derby's a city dominated by big engineering beasts like Rolls-Royce and train manufacturing.
I got twins, 17-year-olds.
Shanmuga contacted us at BBC Your Voice because he wants investment in the railways for his own job, but he's thinking about his kids too. So the things that you've heard about Andy Burnham, does that excite you?
I'm very positive, put it that way. We have to see the change and let it happen.
Chris works nights as a postal worker and came to chat to me because he's sick of Westminster scandals.
Just having a Prime Minister that actually comes in with a strong manifesto and delivers on what they say they're going to.
Do you reckon we should have had a general election?
Yes, possibly.
People here have been really keen to come and chat today, and I'd say the mood is one of very cautious optimism. People hoping the new Prime Minister delivers more for them. A change they feel in their pockets and see around them. Coletta Smith, BBC News in Derby.
Well, in the last few seconds, we've heard that the new Chancellor of the Exchequer will be John Healey, the former Defence Secretary, who, of course, resigned recently. Faisal Islam, our economics editor, is here. Is it surprising, because John Healey, his name wasn't one of the ones that was much discussed beforehand, and what are we to make of it?
So it is a bit of a surprise, except for the fact that we saw him walking up here first.
Which gave us a bit of a hint.
Yeah, and he's obviously known for having been Defence Secretary, having resigned over the what he saw as inadequate funding for the new Defence Investment Plan. He was a Treasury Minister for half a decade under Tony Blair, and actually there should have been a clue there. He was responsible for the devolution, the regional spending, what was known then as the regional development agencies. He was responsible and greatly into that agenda. But I think he's seen as a fairly safe pair of hands. I think it will be the sort of appointment that maybe will calm any nerves in the markets. He has a number of challenges, not least tonight, settling this cost of living support that we're expected to be announced tomorrow morning. Not just the extra support, but also how it will be paid for. And then he will have to feed into this 10-year government plan that Andy Burnham announced, which will be about getting the economy growing again, getting infrastructure going again. But immediately you have a trade-off there. He was literally calling for more defence spending. Some of that funding has come from cutting back on infrastructure spending, on transport and on energy investment. How do you square those things? Well, that is now John Healey, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, actually the 8th Chancellor of the Exchequer in the 7 years that I've been doing this job. And that is a really important point. In order to get medium-term, long-term changes going, you need some security of tenure. You need to be around. And even Rachel Reeves, with a majority of 160, only lasted 2 years. So a really important appointment, an essential appointment, one that will come back to potentially define the Prime Minister.
And as you say, a difficult one too. Faisal, thank you for the moment. Well, as Andy Burnham makes his key cabinet appointments, Chancellor just being one of them, and of course sackings, we see the procession of ministers coming and leaving here. There's been reaction from the devolved governments in Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland.
There'll be issues upon which the Prime Minister and I are not in agreement, but I'm certain there will be areas where we can take forward an agenda that will help to improve the challenges that people face with the cost of living in Scotland, and that's my absolute priority, to make sure that we've got the powers and the opportunities to address that issue.
Things have to change. I am looking at this as a positive. I'm looking for a reset in the relationship between Welsh Government and UK Government. I hope it can be a relationship that is genuinely based on respect.
We, of course, will want to be near the front of the queue in terms of making the case for Northern Ireland. But I think importantly it is about saying to Andy Burnham that we want this to be a partnership. We want this to be about us working constructively. I think he will have seen that.
Designs from Westminster have meant people's lives here have got much, much worse. So we need to have a fair funding model. We need to see real, tangible intervention on the cost of living crisis. And we'll be also asking that he respects and implements the Good Friday Agreement in full.
One of a new Prime Minister's first jobs is to make calls to friendly foreign leaders and allies. And one of Mr Burnham's first calls this afternoon was to the US President Donald Trump. Well, let's cross to our North America editor, Sarah Smith. So, Sarah, has there been any insight at all as to what the two men said?
Yeah, we've had some information as to what they talked about, and apparently Andy Burnham started off by congratulating Donald Trump on a very successful World Cup, and they both agreed that England had had an excellent performance, but there were more substantive matters as well. Andy Burnham apparently underlined his commitment to defence and security in the United Kingdom, and also to trying to help secure the free movement of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and all of that will have been very much appreciated by Donald Trump, who has been saying for a long time that he thinks that the UK should be spending more money on defence along with other NATO members as well. And Donald Trump had already welcomed the idea that Andy Burnham is likely to open up the North Sea for more oil and gas drilling. That's something that he's been pushing for a long time. So there's some common ground, but obviously it can be a tricky relationship with Donald Trump. He's quite easy to get on the wrong side of, and if you do, he might attack you very publicly. But he enjoyed a warm friendship with Sir Keir Starmer, despite many policy differences. It's possible Andy Burnham could replicate that. We don't know yet when they're likely to first meet, but Andy Burnham did apparently say that he looks forward to showing Donald Trump what Manchester has to offer if he can persuade him over there.
OK, we shall see. Sarah Smith outside the White House, thank you very much. And we will bring you more, of course, from Downing Street on the comings and goings, the new appointments to the new government as we get them. But for a moment, let's just take a pause from the politics and look at some of today's other news. The former England captain and manager, Kevin Keegan, has died at the age of 75, just a few weeks after he revealed he'd been diagnosed with cancer. He was one of English football's most decorated players. Andy Swiss looks back at an illustrious career.
Got too many friends, that's Keegan. Keegan with a chance, and he has scored! Kevin Keegan has scored!
Few in football were as passionate or as popular. Kevin Keegan was a star with the big hair and even bigger talent.
Oh, is this it? What a magnificent goal!
And a man who always wore his heart on his sleeve.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Keegan made his name at Liverpool in the 1970s, where his dynamism inspired a golden era.
Goals pay the rent, and Keegan does his share.
And while his attempt at his football career did, as he moved to Hamburg and was twice named European Player of the Year. By then, he was England's captain and their talisman.
Away from Keegan, there's the 1-2.
But despite 63 caps, his only World Cup appearance in 1982 ended in frustration.
And it's wide!
That same year, though, he joined Newcastle United, the start of an enduring emotional bond.
It's Kevin Keegan! Who else?
The fans worshipped him as King Kev. And in 1984, in his final match, he produced the fairy tale ending.
He's done it!
For all his talent, Keegan said it was his enthusiasm that the fans loved.
I mean, there's a lot of players who, over the years, have looked a lot prettier than I do on a football field. But at the end of the day, maybe I've achieved a lot more than they have.
8 years later, Keegan returned to Newcastle as manager. 6 Newcastle United reeled them in, his composure memorably cracked. Despite being pipped to the title, in 1999 Keegan was named the New England manager, but he lasted just a year and a half.
And England, totally unprepared, are totally embarrassed.
After defeat to Germany at Wembley, he resigned, saying simply, "I wasn't good enough." His managerial journey wasn't over though. After a spell at Manchester City, in 2008 he returned to Newcastle, left only 8 months later. But the affection never wavered for this most endearing of figures.
Liverpool, Newcastle and England hero Kevin Keegan, who's died aged 75. Football's newly crowned World Cup champions Spain have arrived home after beating Argentina in the final last night. This is the scene live in Madrid now, where a huge victory parade is about to take place. 1 million people are thought to be lining the streets there. But as John Donnison reports, the final was marred by ugly scenes at the end of the match.
The World Cup, back on Spanish soil for the first time in 16 years. A parade party now underway in the capital, Madrid. And while there was joy for Spain, Argentina were sore losers.
But when the final whistle goes in a World Cup final, you've got to have more class than that.
Disgusting. There was one man on the pitch who did have class, and that was Lionel Messi. Shook hands of every one of those Spanish players. The game's done. They could have absolutely no complaints about what happened today. Disgusting behaviour.
And the contrasting emotions were mirrored back home. Wild celebrations in Madrid. Rioting in Buenos Aires. President Trump, not known to be a football fan, handed over the trophy.
The president's not going to leave the scene lightly. A little like Chelsea in the Club World Cup final last year. He's going to stay on the end. And Gianni's never far away. And now it is in 2026.
As ever, this World Cup brought the highs and the lows. For once, Messi, now 39, missed the moment. The end of one generation, perhaps, and the start of another. John Donnison, BBC News.
Fire crews are continuing to battle a large blaze on Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. The fire broke out on Sunday evening along the Salisbury Crags, where 6 fire engines were sent to tackle the blaze and remained on the scene overnight as the fire continued to burn. It's the second fire at the Scottish landmark in the last 3 months. The broadcaster and journalist Edward Sturton, whose career spanned more than 40 years, including a decade on Radio 4's Today, as well as presenting BBC News, has died aged 68. He'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer back in 2014. He died on Saturday, surrounded by his family. The presenter's friend and former Today co-host James Naughtie praised Sturton's warm intelligence and infectious decency. Well, let me bring you back here to events at Downing Street. Number 10 is a hive of activity, comings and goings. We just saw John Healey walk out of the door of number 11. That is, of course, the door of the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Our political editor, Chris Mason, is here. So everyone asking John Healey if he'd come and give them an interview, including me, no doing. He's gone off to the Treasury. What is the significance of his appointment in particular, would you say?
It's a fascinating appointment because in just the last couple of weeks he has been making a very public critique of what he describes as the Treasury orthodoxy. In other words, the very mindset of the crucial department at the heart of government he is now going to run. You'll recall that he stood down as Defence Secretary. He felt that the Treasury didn't understand the need for additional spending for defence. Whose pub is that now going to be? One former Defence Secretary in Mr Healey. He said that the Treasury sees defence as a drain, not a driver of growth, a Treasury orthodoxy that's a dead hand on dynamic government. So you sit that appointment alongside the appointment of Louise Haigh, who is going to be the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, a driver of the government from inside Downing Street and the Cabinet Office. She will also be the first Secretary of State. That means, effectively, the most senior minister after the Prime Minister in terms of job title. Peter Mandelson, a former First Secretary of State, George Osborne as well, to give you a sense of seniority. Louise Haigh lost her job in Keir Starmer's government over the whole business of pleading guilty to a fraud offence a decade ago, which she said she'd told Keir Starmer about. She felt a deep sense of hurt in her departure from government before. She has also been heavily critical about, again, what is seen as a Treasury orthodoxy, too much power in the Treasury.
So what do we make of this now, Chris? Because if you have John Healey having been critical of the Treasury, he's now running the Treasury. Yeah. There's two ways of looking at it. Either he is now captive and will have to run it and take everything that comes with it, or he's going to change it from within.
Yeah, and this is the bit of the jigsaw that we don't yet have the piece for, which is how much power does the new Prime Minister invest in Downing Street and Number 10 North, and so take power away from the Treasury, as well as giving John Healey and Louise Haigh the power to change things that perhaps in the past have not been changed. Let's see.
Well, we should soon find out. Chris, for now, thank you very much indeed. Well, it's been a glorious sunny day here in London. I'm not sure about the rest of the country. Elizabeth Rizzini is there to tell us all.
Hello, thank you, Fiona. Well, it's still warm. Guess what? It's still dry as well. It's going to be warmer still tomorrow. And the whole pattern's going to continue for the rest of the week until perhaps we get to the weekend. We could see something a little bit different. But this was today's top temperature recorded in Pershore in Worcestershire, just over 28.1 degrees Celsius. So here's the pressure map then. So we have high pressure out towards the west. We're still drawing down that northerly to northeasterly wind. Again, that's going to feed in more low cloud to North Sea facing coast as we head through tonight, and a bit more cloud out towards the far northwest of Scotland, where we could see some drizzle as well. It's going to feel milder tonight than it was last night. Temperatures staying in double figures. So a milder start to the day tomorrow with some patches of mist and fog too across parts of northwest England, down through the Welsh Marches, the Welsh Valleys perhaps as well, and maybe one or two light showers too across East Anglia and Kent. But I think you'll be lucky to catch one of those. They won't last. And for the most part, it's dry again. Lots more sunshine across England and Wales, with a bit more build-up of cloud perhaps as we head through the afternoon. And generally it's going to be a bit cloudier across Northern Ireland, but the temperatures could be higher. So we could get to 26 to 29 Celsius across central areas of England. We could even get to 23 to 25 perhaps across southern and eastern areas of Scotland. Let's take a look at Wednesday. So again, it's quite a mild night. The nights are going to feel warmer again into Wednesday, and there's a lot more cloud. There's a very weak weather front that's just tracking further southwards. Could bring us a few spots of cloud and drizzle at times across parts of East Anglia, down into southeast England. Temperatures not quite so high, but still well above the seasonal average. We might just see a little bit of wet weather for the north and the west into the weekend. Fiona.
Elizabeth, thanks very much. Well, that's it from Downing Street for now. But before we go, I'll just leave you with some of the most memorable moments from today. From all of us here, bye-bye.
My work is done. I go with good grace, I go with a smile, and I go proud of everything that we have achieved. Thank you very much.
Please, let's go and see the cake.
Let's build a new national sense of unity, of common purpose and positivity. Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again, the moment we bring back hope.
Good evening, I'm Declan Harvey. The headlines on BBC Newsline, and big surprises this evening in the Cabinet reshuffle at number 10.
Welcome back. Hilary Benn is out of a job. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland has been sacked after 2 years in office, but as yet we don't know who is going to replace him.
All the while, a new Prime Minister with a new vision for the devolved parts of the UK.
We will take power out of here and carry it into every postcode in the land so that they can do more. And in doing more, build a new economy.
We'll have reaction from the political parties here on what they expect from Andy Burnham.
He needs to give us the tools that we need to deliver first-class public services for people here.
I think it's important that he gets an early indication of the need for tender attention to the political situation in Northern Ireland.
Elsewhere in the news, persistent antisocial behaviour in Belfast has left locals in one community fearing for their safety.
They were doing what they call donuts in the middle of the road. Young people then were standing around watching. If one of those bikes had lost control, we would have been talking about another young person losing their life due to a bike death.
The popular police drama credited with bringing fans to a County Down coastal community.
The world of football is mourning the death of legend Kevin Keegan. We'll have a tribute from Northern Ireland international Keith Gillespie, who played for Keegan when the Englishman was manager of Newcastle United.
And the lower temperatures and slightly cooler feel to the weather is set to stay with us this week. But does that mean there's some rain in the forecast? Find out later.
Hello there. Andy Burnham is spending his first afternoon as Prime Minister in Downing Street and as part of reshuffling the government's top team. This evening we are hearing that the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, has lost his job and is leaving the Cabinet. It is one of many changes to the Cabinet emerging as Andy Burnham takes control at 10 Downing Street. The new Prime Minister has been setting out his vision for a new economy and a new enhanced role for devolution in the UK. Here the Stormont parties warn he has his work cut out for him. Let's take you live now to where all the action has been happening today, not least in the last hour or so. Our political editor, Enda McClafferty, standing by on Downing Street. This has come as a bit of a surprise regarding Hilary Benn, Enda.
It certainly has, Declan. This has blindsided, I think, political watchers both here and also back in Northern Ireland, because Hilary Benn was considered a safe pair of hands in government, somebody who was taking forward a critical piece of legislation, that legacy bill, somebody who was to the fore of resetting relations with Dublin, and somebody who was heavily involved in the negotiations right now between the NIO and the political party leaders in Northern Ireland to secure extra money for Stormont. So for all of those reasons, it was felt that Hilary Benn was safe in his job. That's clearly not the case, as he took to Twitter a short time ago, announced that he will no longer be in the position of Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, but said it had been a great privilege for him to serve his time there, and also said that the government would enjoy his full support. Now, in a moment we'll assess what this tells us about the new Burnham administration, but first of all, our political correspondent Jane McCormick now looks back at Hilary Benn's time in Northern Ireland.
Hilary, nice to meet you. Hiya, Hilary.
Hiya. The welcome Hilary Benn got when he became Secretary of State couldn't have been warmer. As the first Labour politician to hold the job in 14 years, he hoped to cultivate better relations with this place than the Conservatives managed.
I'm determined that we are going to build a new relationship with the parties in Northern Ireland.
But those budding relationships were quickly tested as old arguments about extra funding for the executive resurfaced.
A lack of funding is not the impediment to public services transformation. The real impediment has been the failure to reform the system. The many missed opportunities in the past to take decisions.
And when it came to Labour's big promise to reform dealing with the past, it soon became clear that repealing the previous Troubles Act was one thing, how to replace it, quite another. In September 2025 came the offer, a joint framework between London and Dublin aimed at putting in place a new investigative commission and new legacy arrangements on both sides of the border.
It is clear that a perfect outcome is not attainable. But we firmly believe that this agreement, underpinned by new commitments from our two governments, represents the right approach.
But the government's timetable for getting the legislation through Parliament slipped. Getting victims and veterans group to accept it proved a next to impossible task.
Now, Mr. Jennings, it is such an honour.
A die-hard football fan, as Secretary of State, Hilary Benn enjoyed this lighter moment meeting goalkeeper great Pat Jennings. As for his government's record on support for sport here, £50 million was made available for redeveloping Casement Park in June 2025.
This is a significant contribution that we're making today to support the project so it can be built. In the end, these things are going to balance themselves out.
Hilary Benn may have avoided scoring any major own goals as Secretary of State, but he leaves his successor with much unfinished business to net agreement on. Jane McCormack, BBC Newsline.
So now we know whenever the new look cabinet sits down in number 10 tomorrow morning, there will be a new face there representing Northern Ireland. Of course, all the political parties back at home will be taking a big interest to see who gets that portfolio, given all that is happening, not least those negotiations about more cash for Stormont. Well, our political reporter Brendan Hughes has been assessing the political reaction back home to Andy Burnham's new premiership.
A new Prime Minister, another one. The 5th in 4 years, something Andy Burnham says he's acutely conscious of.
I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be. We will make this moment a circuit breaker for Britain.
Some over here, though, want a circuit breaker from Britain with a border poll.
People see that they will always be collateral damage to Westminster number 10's policies. So recognising that there is an alternative way forward, recognising that the Good Friday Agreement sets out that pathway, that's what I want to see Andy Burnham engage with, not just with local political parties, but also with Dublin.
For the DUP, the new PM's focus should be on Stormont and its challenges.
It is important that Prime Minister understands that all of us strive for political stability in Northern Ireland, but it doesn't happen by accident. And I think it's important that he gets an early indication of the need for tender attention to the political situation in Northern Ireland.
But should that include further devolution?
Well, the current devolution we haven't been able to set a budget, so we don't know how much our health service is going to get. We actually don't know how much is going into our education or all those other essential services as well. So whether that more devolution is actually the right thing for Northern Ireland at this moment in time, I'm not 100% sure.
We know that we are never going to get to a stage where we have good public finances without reform of Stormont and without reform of how it actually works. The public know that. He knows that. This is now his time to get the Northern Ireland parties round the table to make sure that we have sound public finances, but also that we reform this system.
As for calls from some for an early election cycle,
I don't think so. I think there have been mid-term changes, and there will always be those calls. I think what Andy Burnham needs to do is to try and inject some stability, try and get some work done before the election, because that detaches people further and further from politics.
Let us make this the moment when Britain starts to believe again. The moment we bring back hope. Thank you very much, everybody.
Andy Burnham has promised a 10-year plan for government, but he may not have that much time from his party or the public. Brendan Hughes, BBC Newsline.
And Enda's still with us in Downing Street. Enda, this evening, what do you think that the sacking of Hilary Benn tells us about Andy Burnham's premiership?
Well, I think there's a sense here in Downing Street that Andy Burnham is trying to bring a freshness to his new operation here, a freshness to his cabinet, and may well be the case that Hilary Benn has fallen foul of that particular policy, because here was somebody pretty loyal to Keir Starmer, a long-standing senior figure within the Labour Party, now losing their job, a job they wanted to stay on in after just 2 years. And it might well be the case that Andy Burnham sees Northern Ireland as maybe a place now where he can promote somebody from the back benches. He might also be aware of the gender balance, if you like, around the cabinet table. So it'll be interesting to see who does indeed replace Hilary Benn whenever that announcement is made sometime this evening. And we also know that Andy Burnham is big on devolution, or so he tells us. So this might well also be an attempt as well to try and, I suppose, bring a fresh outlook to the whole process of devolution. And it'll be interesting to see what that could mean in the long run.
But with all that in mind, are we anticipating changes in policy towards Northern Ireland?
Well, it's too early to say just yet. We're going to have a change in personnel, that is for sure. And we know Andy Burnham is all about taking power out of Westminster and devolving it to the regions. Now, our politicians at home will be keen to test him on that particular theory, just to see how far he's prepared to go. Because, of course, they would like more power back at home, and they would also like more money. And I think that's the most critical decision that Andy Burnham's going to have to take pretty quickly, as is his new Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Will they be able to come up with some cash which will allow ministers around the executive table to press ahead and set that budget, because we are now reaching that critical point where departments need that cash and that certainty to be able to plan ahead. And as yet, nothing has been agreed on the budget front. So those are the decisions facing Andy Burnham. He's likely to be in Northern Ireland in the coming days, who knows, before the end of the week, and that's going to be his big challenge, I think, first and foremost.
All right, Enda, live for us in a busy Downing Street this evening. Thank you very much. There is still a long way to go this evening in Westminster as Andy Burnham starts making his mark. We've a live page running on the BBC News website. It's updated all the time as word reaches us from number 10. You'll find it there, the address on your screen. It's also, of course, available on the BBC News app. In other news this evening, one of the 2 people killed in a single vehicle crash in North Antrim over the weekend has been named. 31-year-old Natasha Gove from the Ballyclare area had been travelling in a van with a 41-year-old man who also died. It happened on Saturday night on the Glenariff Road near Cushendall. Police are appealing for witnesses. Police are investigating what was described as the absolute chaos in West Belfast over the weekend. In the disorder, an officer was assaulted, bins were set on fire and PSNI vehicles were damaged. A number of arrests have been made, including of a boy who we're told is as young as 14. Younger people in the area who witnessed the trouble have described it to our reporter Lindsay Telford as really scary.
It was a night of mayhem and havoc. About 100 young people caught up in the disorder. Not too far from the scene of the trouble, a new day at a summer scheme that's proved to be a positive outlet for kids in the area. But Saturday's events are still on some minds.
So you could hear all the engines, you could hear all the glass smashing from bottles being thrown. So it just felt very dangerous and you didn't want to leave your house, so you didn't. Because it is kids from the community and you just feel sorry and you want them to come home, but they want to be thinking they're cool, but it's not cool. And it's just very dangerous for everybody.
I was trying to go home on the glider and then the glider got cancelled and I had to walk through all of it, and I was just really scared of in case some a motorbike came in and almost wiped me off my feet or something.
They were doing what they call donuts in the middle of the road. There was smoke everywhere where people couldn't see. The noise was unbelievable. And young people then were standing around watching what was going on. If one of those bikes had lost control, we would have been talking about another young person losing their life due to a bike death.
I want rid of them, honestly. I just want them gone. It's just become normalised now. It's a normal thing to have an e-scooter or an e-bike. I think the best thing to do is just get rid of them or reduce the numbers that are being made. It's just very, very scary, even for adults, but especially for young kids.
But what happened here involved more than just kids and scramblers and e-scooters.
There is definitely sinister elements within that where there's adults there that are asking young people to get involved in the rats, to bait the police in, go and lift bricks, go and get into them. They're the ones that are standing in the background, not getting arrested, where our children and young people are going out and having to get arrested now, are going to have criminal records and they're going to affect their future.
So just who then are these sinister elements?
They are paramilitary gangs, organised criminal gangs. This is child criminal exploitation when children are being coerced into committing criminal acts, riotous behaviour. They are being encouraged or told that they have to be somewhere, do something. And these are older members of the community they're scared of, so they're not going to say no to them.
It's an issue the Children's Commissioner says needs tackled head on.
Unfortunately, there's a pattern here. The amount of times that I would speak to people like yourself about the criminal coercion of children and young people, and it seems to be that this happened in the Stewartstown Road as well this week.
He's called for more funding to support projects like this one.
There is so much positive work going on. Sports clubs, community groups and youth clubs are putting on the activities. I'm appealing to parents, I'm appealing to young people, use those facilities that are made available to you over the summer.
It's an appeal to get people like this off the streets. Lindsay Telford, BBC Newsline in West Belfast.
Now, one of the problems with renewable energy like wind and solar has been how to store that energy so it's available when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Now, scientists at Queen's University have developed a new battery which they believe could be a game changer for improving that storage. Here's our environment correspondent, Louise Cullen.
It's a small structure, 3D printed at this lab in Stranmillis, and it's transforming research around the world into batteries for long-lasting storage of renewable energy.
Most people will have come across a lithium-ion battery that might be found in your phone or in your laptop or increasingly in cars. But a flow battery is different. It's not based on storing electricity in solids. It's instead the charge is stored in liquids.
Dr. Hugh O'Connor developed this flow battery cell for testing during his PhD.
I was really interested in looking at how I could change the shape of the flow battery cavities to make them perform better. And I went to buy some commercially available flow cells, and they were like £1,000 to £2,000. And instead of modifying them, I was like, okay, I'll try and make my own. So I started 3D printing them, and after a lot of trial and error, eventually these started to work really well.
Using iron made the batteries affordable. They normally use an element called vanadium that's only produced in a very small number of countries, meaning it's expensive. Making the cell affordable was one thing, giving it away in a flat pack kit to universities around the world was another.
One day I was kind of driving back home and I was thinking, oh, could I sell these to a small number of my colleagues? But we discussed it and genuinely felt that it could make a big difference to the field if we gave this away, and it could really help our careers and our research here as well.
And standardising research on a global scale could help change our lives in the future.
We all are accustomed to a really amazing way of life here, and if we want to be able to live like this forever, we need new technologies to support our transition away from fossil fuels.
Louise Cullen, BBC Newsline at Queen's University, Belfast.
Now, the success of the BBC's police drama Hope Street has been significant. It's been a hit particularly with audiences in the US who've had their imaginations captured by not just the crimes, but also the warmth of the characters who live in the fictional coastal town of Portdevine. Of course, in real life, Portdevine is Donaghadee, and as a result, locals have found themselves on the television tourism map. Kevin Sharkey has been to investigate.
Donaghadee on the Ards Peninsula, a place with a rich maritime history, now making waves following the filming of the police drama Hope Street.
There's a lot of cruise ships now come into Belfast, and they'll come down here quite often on a tour, and you can hear them saying, you know, oh, that's where the police station is, and oh, this is the, you know, so-and-so's house. So it's been great. It has been good for the town, definitely.
People come to Donaghadee now
yes.
to see the town and see all the locations where the filming has taken place. Yeah, on the map.
Donaghadee became the fictional town of Portdevine in the TV series, bringing the area to the attention of more people at home and abroad.
Papa Delta 81, I need that ambulance!
So here it is, Portdevine, or in reality, Donaghadee. But what happens in a community like this when a film crew arrives here, spends some time, and then moves on? What's the commercial and community impact? Local visitors have always been drawn to the attractions of this seaside town, but now some businesses are noticing more international tourists.
When the Hope Street crew came first to the town, I have to say it was such a buzz around the idea of our little town being filmed and being on TV. We do have a lot of tourists coming here and wanting to see where things are filmed. It's been something really special.
Visitors are also coming to see local landmarks from the drama. So here we are outside Pier 36 in Donaghadee.
Also known to those who watch Hope Street on TV as the Commodore in Portdevine. We've had over the summer and today already we've had visitors from America. We've had Australian visitors that have watched the show. We've seen people from all over the place.
Back at the Chunky Dunkers, one of the extras in the drama reflects on her own starring role.
I think my most famous was, and as my husband says, I've got the face for a funeral. I was at a funeral.
You found fame and tourism possibilities in Donaghadee. Kevin Sharkey, BBC Newsline in Portdevine.
You'll, of course, find Hope Street on the iPlayer. Let's keep going, though, because there was some sad news in sport today, particularly from the world of football. Stephen is here.
Declan, there was one of the legends of football, Kevin Keegan, much loved here in Northern Ireland, in his famous Liverpool shirt there, has died at the age of 75, unfortunately. Just 7 weeks ago, Kevin Keegan revealed he'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Now, Keegan was one of English football's most decorated players and most popular personalities. He made his name, as I said, with Liverpool in the 70s before playing for Hamburg, Southampton and Newcastle. Keegan was the England captain, scoring 21 goals. And he also managed England and also led Newcastle United to the Premier League title in 1996. I've just been speaking to Northern Ireland international Keith Gillespie, who Keegan signed for Newcastle.
It's the news that none of us wanted to hear. You know, I'm in a group chat with the rest of the boys from that period, and, you know, we're just all absolutely devastated and heartbroken, really. You know, it's just such sad news because he was such an impact on my career, and you know, it's just terribly sad day.
What was Kevin like as a manager?
He was incredible. You know, playing at that period for Newcastle when, you know, we came so close to winning the league. His football, he wanted to entertain. You know, I remember obviously signing, and it was because it was such a high-profile transfer, and Andy Cole going the other way. You know, the fans were obviously very irate with this, and you know, I remember Kevin out on the steps that time, and you know, as I say, the fans were irate, but within 5 minutes, you know, Kevin had them believing what he wanted to do. He says, "Look, this is the way I see to take the club forward," and they trusted in him, and he did that because we obviously brought in Les Ferdinand, and a year later we brought in Alan Shearer as well. So if any managers would have gone out and spoke to the fans at such an important time in Newcastle's, you know, history, because Andy Cole was such a marksman, and nobody ever thought that they would sell him, and he just seen that as the, you know, the way forward for that club at that time.
And finally, Keith, how will you remember Kevin?
He was just an infectious character. He was massive for me. I was obviously very young at the time, probably the youngest member of that squad, and, you know, just what he did for me, and on many occasions, just problem. You know, I've always sort of been asked about my favourite manager, and it was Kevin, because, you know, he brought the best out of me, but, you know, more importantly, he brought the best out of everyone, and that's just the way he was.
Memories of Kevin Keegan, who died today. Now, Rory McIlroy is taking a break from the sport and won't play again until mid-August. That after finishing in a tie for 40th place at the Open yesterday. McIlroy says he'll continue to pick and choose the most important tournaments to him. His priorities have changed since winning the Grand Slam. But as he showed at the Open, he's still the biggest draw in golf. A frustrating finish to the Open for Rory McIlroy. A tournament where he struggled to find his very best form.
Yeah, I just sort of stuck in neutral for most of the week. Obviously shot a good one on Friday to get myself in for the weekend and back in it, and yeah, even par over the weekend is not going to get it done. And yeah, just one of those weeks I couldn't get it going.
That's the end of the major season. What most are you looking forward to for the rest of this year?
This season feels very similar to last season. Obviously won the first major of the year, fell off a little bit after that, but, you know, still, you know, anytime you win a major in a year, you have to be pleased about that. So yeah, like, I haven't really took the time to enjoy that or celebrate that. So you know, Poppy's got another 4 weeks off school until she goes back sort of middle to end of August, so just going to enjoy the summer holidays with her and Erica, and yeah, you know, that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Rory's army of fans will see him in action on home soil at the Irish Open in the autumn. And that's the start of an international end to his season.
I've really enjoyed my stretches of golf in Europe and in, you know, heading into, like, you know, going back to India again, the Middle East, Australia. Really enjoyed that part of the year last year, and looking forward to that again for sure.
So it wasn't to be at Birkdale for Rory.
still a major year to reflect on, as New Zealander Ryan Fox lifted the famous claret jug.
Yeah, well done to him. Now, finally tonight, the venue for Northern Ireland's Nations League game away to Ukraine has been confirmed tonight. The match will be played in Trnava in Slovakia. Since Russia's invasion, UEFA haven't permitted Ukraine to host competitive international matches for security reasons. So that's where the squad and Michael O'Neill will be off to. Declan.
Stephen, thank you very much. It was a busy weekend for many. The grain harvest underway. This was taken yesterday in County Down, obviously the Scrabwood Tower. Is the weather going to play ball this week?
Lots of dry weather still to come, Declan, but you will have noticed a drop in temperature over the weekend. It's been cooler and it will be cooler the rest of the week. Today, hottest places were in County Down, up to 22 degrees. That's where the best of the sunshine was as well. We've still got high pressure close by, but with northwesterly winds, we're looking at lots of cloud, odd spots of drizzle, but there is some rain on the way for Friday night, early Saturday morning. So if it's rain you're looking for, some will come later this week. Generally dry tonight, some breaks in the east and south. Still that northwesterly breeze with odd spots of drizzle, but at least our houses will be a little bit cooler tonight, more comfortable for sleeping because it hasn't been just as sunny today. And there will be a lot of cloud to start the day tomorrow, again with one or two drizzly showers here and there, particularly in the north and west, but that's where they'll mostly stay during the day. I think a lot of places drying up. The best of the sunny breaks in the east and south. Temperatures possibly close to 22 degrees in County Down, but certainly further south across the island, more in the way of sunshine and warmth, and 24 is on the cards for parts of Cork and Kerry. Now, looking ahead, we've still got high pressure close by, the northwesterly breeze coming in off the Atlantic, feeding in lots of cloud. But then this weather front coming in through Friday night, and that will bring more widespread rain for a time on Saturday morning. One or two heavier splashes. It will mean slightly more changeable weather over the weekend, but sometimes our gardens need a little bit of rain. If you're heading to the beach, County Down Beach is the best for some sunshine.
OK, good advice. Cecilia, thank you very much. That's it. We'll update you again at 10:30. Bye-bye.
What happened to him? Deserved it all.
You're head of the family now, John.
No way is that his real will.
My son and I are short 40 million.
It's going to get really messy.
Can't see how he could have fired this gun himself.
These days, I don't really believe a word she says.
Be careful, John. Be very, very careful.
I, Jack Wright. Press red for all episodes on BBC iPlayer.
How Aberdeen became the dolphin capital of Europe, and the story of the 200,000 bees at Stormont. Barra's Return of the Wild here on BBC One Northern Ireland at 8:30. And indeed we've something now on the wild side.
Every time I think about it, I get goosebumps. I dream about them. So many people have seen them. You know, when's it going to be my turn? It's a real passion for me, and I've tried over the past 17 years, but it's a shot in the dark. It's 1,000 to 1 whether it actually walks past. There are a lot of sceptical people out there because the evidence that's been presented is a bit ropey, isn't it?
That is not a domestic cat.
Just these grainy pictures of blobs in fields.
Look, Martina, look in the camera.
That's manifested into this wanting to prove the existence of them living in the United Kingdom.
That's huge.
It's definitely a big cat. But we're all searching to belong to something. I belong to the big cat community. The press have named us the Camouflage Brigade. Weekend warriors, they call us. We love to dress up in camouflage. We love to get out in the woods. You know, I'm a builder. It's what I do during the week. OK, hold it there. There's people like me in every county gathering their own evidence, talking to witnesses.
It was big. It was bigger than an Alsatian.
So we've got this incredible event planned. This is probably the biggest thing that I've ever done or taken part in the big cat community.
What's that?
We've got a team coming up to put in a proper investigation. So sooner or later, we're going to get that footage that is absolutely conclusive.
I would love it to be true for him. And don't get me wrong, I am sceptical, but I'm so proud of my dad.
My position as a scientist is that is quite convincing looking evidence, but it's not proof.
Is this the end then? Am I going to see it tonight? That's all the different hats I have. My work hat, my winter exploring hat, and my big cat hat. So, come on in.